This week on the Roll for Crit podcast, we have some good news from some old favorites, as well as some bad news for fans of the Dungeons & Dragons series.
And then it's our topic of the week, new editions. What do we look for in reprints of our favorite games, and which games do we think could use an update? I'm Jonathan Estes.
I'm Will Keeler, and this is the Roll for Crit podcast. So before we start off, I hope you all had a great pre-release for Khans of Tarkir. I got to go, as you can see in my badge hand here. I did not do well. I hope you all guys did better, whether you scored high in the tournament or just got a lot of great rares. I did not do well in either of those departments. So.
But they still gave you a badge.
Yeah, well, I got a little pin, yeah.
Does everyone get one of those?
Yeah, it came in the box. That was one of the nice things about Magic. You get the box, they give a lot of things in it. I got that, a 20-sided die, 6 packs, including a little special pre-release card.
Swag.
Yeah.
Yeah. I wish I could get a 6-pack from a Magic the Gathering. That was a joke about abs. Anyway, we have a lot of news to get to. That sounds like fun, but we have news. So first news story of the week. Z-Man Games has announced that they are putting out a brand new version of their classic game, Carcassonne. So they're dubbing it Carcassonne 2.0. I don't think that's actually going to be on the box, but that's what they called it in their announcement. And it is going to have completely redone artwork. However, the backs of the tiles will be the same as the old game so that it's still interchangeable with all the expansions. And this version also comes with 2 expansions included, the River and I believe the Abbot. So as far as we know, the rules are the same. At least they have not said anything about that. It's purely an update in visuals. I would guess that the rulebook might have some kind of a visual update or some clarifications or something like that. I don't know if this game really needs it because it's fairly simple and fairly beloved as it is, but kind of cool for to have a new version of it. I don't want to say too much because that's our topic of the week.
Yeah, I mean, it's always nice to get an art update with some games. Yeah. And we'll see what they do and see what's different. You never know. It could be like just one rule that maybe they change and you don't think about, and that changes everything in the game.
They could do it. Mm-hmm. Carcassonne is a little... the art is very classical looking, so I'm curious. I don't know what the new direction will be like. We'll see.
In other news, Dungeons & Dragons, as you know, came out with the new Next, or 5th edition. And they've been slowly releasing all the books. We've seen the starter set, the player's guide, the monster manual just came out recently. But unfortunately, the Dungeon Master Guide has been delayed. It was slated to come out this November, but now it's been pushed back to December 9th as of now. The reasoning behind this is that they want to actually put everything in this book instead of separate them out in the different DM books. And Wizards of the Coast has been taking a lot. Is Wizards of the Coast right?
Yeah, Wizards of the Coast.
Okay, good. Just making sure. For some reason I was like, I'm still stuck in Magic.
Yeah. Yes, but yes.
They're taking a lot of feedback on the artwork, how they want the book should be organized, and they want to get this done right. Which I think is, it stings because, we want to get started on getting this DM book and going through full out to the new edition. But at the same time, it's really nice because, it's not, it's not a month delay. It's not like a year. We're still within the, it's like what, 2-3 weeks?
2 or 3 weeks, yeah.
And it's still before the winter holiday, so you can still use it as a gift.
Yeah, and it's not like you can't play Dungeons & Dragons right now. It's still, the starter set's out there, and obviously all the old editions too, but I did like the original one. It's like right around Thanksgiving, get the family together around the table, roll some dice.
I would like to see whose family actually gets around the table in Dungeons & Dragons. I know mine won't.
Mine won't either. Write to us. Take pictures, please. Ivan's will. But yeah, I think that's cool too. It's nice they're taking a little extra time and care, and I think it's showing because people are really into the.
And like you said, the star set should last you with all the other things long enough.
Right.
And we'll see what they do. The one thing I'm always scared about is for some reason whenever I see delays around winter time, they get much worse because there's always the weather seems to be bad then.
Yeah.
So that's my fear. My fear isn't as much that they're not able to do it. It's just that because of the weather, maybe it's going to take longer for other people to receive it.
Yeah.
So, we'll see what happens.
Hopefully not. But speaking of dungeons, This is the segue that people dream of. Speaking of dungeons, Fantasy Flight has a game called Dungeon Quest, and they, too, are getting on the train of new versions of games as Dungeon Quest Revised is being released. I think it actually was at Gen Con, but I don't believe it's available for general retail release as of yet. But they put up a detailed preview on their website recently with some of the details of the rule changes. Unlike Carcassonne, there are some significant changes to this one.
Not that big of a surprise coming from a Fantasy Flight game.
That's right. There's actually a whole other book. It's crazy. If you're not familiar with the game, you go into a dungeon, sort of like Dungeons and Dragons, but simplified, and you find some treasure, and then there's a dragon, and you got to get out before the dragon kills you.
Really? I was thinking that you decided to just walk in a plain field and you lay down and pick some flowers.
It's a total misnomer. I don't know why they call it that. That's Dungeon Quest's 4th edition.
Oh, okay.
They're going to give the name make sense. No, but seriously, in the game, you flip tiles, and that tells you what you're going to do as you play through the game. One of the big changes is combat in this one is much more simplified. Where the player to your left actually plays for the monster. And the way it works is you choose from your hand a melee, a ranged, or a magic attack. And secretly you both flip at the same time. And depending on the stats on each card, the number, the attack power, and stuff like that, you determine the outcome of the battle. There's also a variant Torchlight or something like that mode, not related to the show or the game or any of those things. Torchwood is the show. Torchlight is the game. I'm with you, people. Where normally you only see your tiles flip as you go. In this version, you get to see where the next tiles will be from all your possible exits.
Because you have a torch, so you see the light, right?
Right. So that's a little. I don't know. I guess it's a little friendlier. So you have some idea, and maybe a little more strategic because you can decide where you want to go.
Right. But at the same time, I'll have to play them both side by side. I haven't tried them.
Right, but we can say like based on a game like Betrayal or something
right.
like that, where it's the same mechanic.
I think part of it would enjoy like going blind in because then you're just running through like I'm coming, oh god, there's an orc here.
Right, as is wont to happen. But if you're a fan of the game, look forward to that. Sounds pretty cool. I'm excited to check it out.
Mm-hmm. So in other news, finishing up. If any of you have an interest in video games, Assassin's Creed is probably one you've heard of. And recently, Upper Deck has gotten the rights for Assassin's Creed. As for now, they've said they're only making posters and trading cards, which is a little sad. Because as we both have said many times, we're a big fan of Legendary, which Upper Deck makes. So we would love to see Assassin's Creed get on that. That would definitely, I think, be a great... I think that would actually make a good, like, not just like Legendary mix, but encounters, like with a little bit different, like, because it could be, it makes sort of sense with you're fighting the Templars, and maybe you can go back and forth somehow.
Oh yeah, because like, you could be turned to a Templar.
Well, not even that. Like there could be a future and like a past pile.
Oh right, because there's the different.
So you can actually go something interesting like that.
Yeah, well, because it's cool because Upper Deck also, they got the Firefly license. They seem to be grabbing up these licenses, but I guess because people saw how good they did with Marvel.
Once again, the one issue is that Cryptozoic, we know, has already made the Assassin's Creed Arena game.
That's true.
So whether they're allowed to, I really hope Cryptozoic does not.
Yeah, it might be a specific. They might only have the rights to such and such.
Right.
But I don't know.
Copyright laws.
Yeah, but it would be cool to see if they did, because Firefly, like they're doing a dice game, like they're not putting it with Legendary, but they are branching out a little more, it seems, with different types of games. So maybe we'll see.
I mean, yeah, like I would love Legendary to go around the same path as I think what's happening with Dice Masters, in which we just see it get like so many different. Yeah. So you can literally just do everything.
Yeah, that would be. I know we've talked about our dreams many times.
Yes, as well as it comes with a unicorn which you can ride.
That's the next
step.
Fantasy Flight game.
Yeah.
It comes with a unicorn. It's part of the book. It's how they get to summon it. Anyway, that's our news, I believe.
Yeah, that is.
Okay, I believe correctly. Which will bring us to our Kickstarter Pickstarter.
For this week, my Kickstarter Pickstarter is 1919, The Noble Experiment. It is about the year 1919. Oh. Recently, a law just passed, a noble experiment, in order to bring some humility, and I guess some grace to America.
We need it.
Others called this prohibition, which, as many of you know now, was not a good idea. During this time, alcohol was banned. So your job and the player is you are the bosses providing the illegal alcohol to all the different bars and places. The way this works is you get workers. You first start, you each take, there's different workers. They have a front that are like a weaker version of it in the back, which costs money. And each turn, starting with the first player, takes 2 cards. They choose which worker they want on which side. Give that card to the other person, then he draws one from the deck. And you keep going until everyone has 4 workers. Then you work on buying different ingredients to make the different kinds of alcohol, whichever in question. There's different kinds you can make depending on the ingredients. And of course, certain locations want certain liquors, and they'll give more points depending on the scenario. And there's plenty of other ways to interact with each other, including there's a mayor card, and he can be corrupt, or he can be screwing everyone over. And it just looks like a really great game of resource management, as well as that cool Prohibition era theme.
Yeah, as Boardwalk Empire final season just started up, so it'd be a good pairing, a good game night. Is there any? No one plays as the cops or anything. You're all bootleggers.
No, you're all. Well, as far as now, it's all bootleggers. I don't know if. I mean, who knows? Maybe an expansion when someone plays as secretly a cop.
Yeah.
Yeah, the game is by Black Monk Games, and it's doing pretty well. I think there is a level that you can actually have yourself in there as a worker or another character. So, I mean, if you're really excited about that and want to get yourself drawn into that, that seems to be a good place to go.
And how much is just for the game?
Off
the top of your head?
I
Ballpark?
Think somewhere between $30 and $45, if I recall. Okay. I'm blanking because I recently backed a bunch of Kickstarters because I got...
He's got numbers swarming around his head. That's okay. That sounds cool.
Yeah.
I want to check it out.
Oh, yeah.
And you should check it out, too. Another one you can check out, my pick this week, is a little different. It is a role-playing game called Last One Standing, designed by a fella named Stephen Betrayal, or Betrayal. I don't know how you say his name, but that's his name.
We butcher everyone's names on this show.
I think it's Stefan Betrayal. Anyway, this is an RPG. If you are familiar with dystopian battle fiction, such the likes of Battle Royale or the Hunger Games, this will be right up your alley. It takes place in much the same universe where kids have been assigned, young adults have to go out into the field and fend for themselves and fight, and last one standing is the survivor. And so everyone who plays is a character. There's actually 100 pre-built characters in there, at least. This is that game, actually, you can already play this. The HTML version is online, so if you want to try it out, this Kickstarter is for expanding with new artwork, new roles, better rules, things like that. And one player is the director, and there's a bunch of different directors you can choose from, and they get different abilities where they can, they're basically they're
the puppet masters.
Right, but it's more, what's cool, I think, is that it's actually in universe, unlike Dungeons & Dragons or something like that, where the Dungeon Master is not... Well, separate.
Yeah, because I think it works. It actually works for that person being universe. Like,
right.
Like we said, some are examples. Hunger Games, which all the movies have been coming out. There actually is someone who's in charge of the games.
And you can decide, like, oh, things aren't that interesting right now. I'm going to throw like a pack of lions or whatever you do.
Well, yeah, and that actually makes sense then. It's also it's interesting for the gamers or something. So I haven't seen how it works, but maybe there's like an audience level, so you have to keep that up or something.
Yeah, I don't know if there is, but like I said, there's a lot of different directors with different powers, so they might have that kind of thing. But yeah, it's a pretty simple game to learn.
And there's different areas too. Like you can actually be fighting whether in a desert or like a city or a jungle. So that's also exciting because then it could be like, you're in it looks like an abandoned city, so you might want to climb buildings or something. And, and meanwhile, he's up there like, I'm going to put trip mines in every other building or something.
Yeah, so it's a very cool theme, and I think, and a good RPG, I think, everyone would die, so it won't take that long.
One thing that's nice is, unlike many, like Dungeons & Dragons, the big ones we know, this one is not cooperative going through a dungeon together.
Right, I didn't even mention that. This is a competitive RPG.
Well, you said kill everyone, so.
That's true.
Another thing is, not that big of a thing, you know how the DM usually has the board That actually makes more sense. Like you just see his eyes, you're just terrified of what he's doing behind
Should
there.
be like a Big Brother screen, and you can see everything.
That actually would be great.
Anyway, it's only $10 for the PDF, and $25 if you want a print version of it, which is not bad at all. So check that out. Last one standing. Those are our Kickstarter games.
I guess that means it's time for our topic of the week.
So our topic of the week this week is new editions of board games or card games, tabletop games in general, when a company decides to put out a new version either with new rules or updated artwork, that kind of thing, and what do we like to see from that? So we're going to start out by thinking about games in the past that have done such a thing, which there are quite a few. A couple that come to mind. Often you'll see even in the title, you know, 3rd edition, 2nd edition, or 2.0, or what have you. Like Descent, I feel like is...
That was the big one I was waiting. I was seeing if you thought of that, because I was like, oh, I got this one.
Yeah, because that's right in the title everywhere you look. Descent, Journeys in the Dark, 2.0, version 2.0. Because I think that is one of the perhaps rarer examples where they really overhauled that game.
Yeah, no, that one, like usually when it comes to updates, there's usually a few cards and still mixes whatever's around. That one does not mix with anything unless you get the conversion kit. They had to make something so you could mix it.
Yeah, there's a whole other thing you got to buy to do it. So I guess in general, I mean, what do you think about? And you can go into specifics if you want. That practice. I mean, is that something? Is that a positive thing?
It is. Usually, we see 3 reasons why it happens. Ooh. The first one is a broken mechanic. Now, this happens if there's a card that doesn't work well and just got overplayed or overused or something. An example of this would be the knee pads of Allure and Munchkin. In the old version, it allowed you to ask everyone pretty much to help you.
And they couldn't refuse.
Yes. And in the new one, they changed it. I forgot what it was.
Didn't they just take it out?
No, like I've seen it. It's actually it's completely different. It's
I know. Not, even before they took it out online, and like the
people would tell you to just take it out.
It was on the official site. They were like, just take it out.
Right. So a card, something like that. The second one is the looks. This is for art reasons.
Could go back to Munchkin again.
Right. Once again, Munchkin released a color version of the print. And that's just because, you know, depending on what comes with the new set, they maybe get better artists than they did in the past, or maybe it wasn't colored like Munchkin. Whatever the term, like Carcassonne, like we mentioned earlier.
Right, you want to give it a more modern look or something.
The final reason is for mechanics. Now, this isn't as much because it's broken, but maybe they want to change things up. An example of this would be Doomtown, which is now a living card game, which now we're seeing Doomtown Reloaded. Right. Another one which sort of goes into this, I feel, would be Dungeons and Dragons. They just did the sort of the Dungeons and Dragons next, which they're trying to really revamp the entire set and trying to make it more, I guess, more about the user itself than just rolling dice and fighting.
Yeah, plus, I mean, Dungeons and Dragons has a history. Like we said, if this is their 5th edition, like clearly they've been. That's also that game's been around for so long, so much longer.
Well, I guess that brings me to it's sort of a 4th, but I don't count it in a way.
Yeah.
And it's like Dungeons and Dragons, like this is really true with Magic the Gathering, is when you release other sets, because it's not like when they do core sets, it's not really revamping the old cards, but they do tweak them along on Magic Gathering. Like they might add a creature type now. Like before on the card, it might just say human, but then they started adding 2 creature types. So now that card is a human soldier.
Right. You have to update the old
stuff. The human is a good example because they didn't add human until recently in the Magic series. So there was never any humans. There'd just be soldier cards. And then they finally added human. And then they had to like go, okay, we have to look back at everything and decide what's human, what's not.
Right, right. It's also just a reason to for people to buy your game again, right? Like if they didn't put out Dungeons and Dragons 5th edition, if everybody already has 4th edition, they're never going to sell any more Dungeons and Dragons. So you got to make a new version. And I would say even another reason, the list keeps growing, is just if a game gets sold out, they need to do a reprint. Sometimes they'll just, since they're doing it, they might as well go ahead and change some things.
Right.
But it'll probably be for reasons like you said already.
But like we said, we've listed Descent, Dungeons and Dragons, Magic sort of, Doomtown,
another
Munchkin,
one that's been around a long time, Cosmic Encounter. That's like from the 70s, and that's had a bunch of new versions.
Evo, which I know is completely different on looks. Like if you look at the Evo you can get now, it looks like really like you're raising dinosaurs. They look realistic realistic. I saw an old version. Looks like Barney the dinosaur on the playmat. It's completely different.
Isn't Evo like out of print now?
I believe so.
It's hard to find.
Yeah.
Anyway. But yeah, that's a dinosaur game. It's cool.
But we listed some of the things. What are the big things?
Some of the things.
Big things you like. What do you desire most to have an update? Like, what would get you to buy an updated version?
Well, I mean, it's tough if there's like for me if I already had a game and the new version comes out, like if the Descent 3.0 came out tomorrow, it would really have to be really they have to do a lot to get me. Like new art wouldn't, unless it's like Carcassonne isn't a very expensive game. So that's one that I could see like maybe I'll drop the 20 or 30 bucks.
I actually have one game on here I know you would buy just because they do artwork and it might happen.
Go on.
Legendary. The original Legendary set, each group, each hero had the same artwork for every card. However, people didn't like that. So for every card, Legendary afterwards, every card in that group, it has a different one. As long as they're the same card, different cards. So like the big Spider-Man card in the Spider-Man set had different artwork from his smaller cards. So I know if they redid the big box version, redid all the artwork, I would bet you would buy that.
I would definitely buy that. And that isn't even like, I wasn't even one of the people who cared about that, but I would buy that. Partly because it would match with the rest of the game.
And plus, I mean, like we look at the villain set, we've said the artwork is so amazing. They bring that to the Legendary.
They could do a great job there. And a lot of people have that problem, I know. That. So there definitely are circumstances. If it's a game I really love and it's something like that.
I think a mechanic thing that's a big thing for me, because it's not like it's a promo card where it just has different artwork. It literally changes the way you can play the game.
Yeah. Especially if it's a game like that didn't work that well in some regards.
Right.
Another one I just remembered is Resistance. The Resistance had a 2.0 with slightly different new art and like a bigger box and everything. Games that I would say for me, I think it does walk a fine line occasionally of being almost like it's like sort of like DLC for video games where a lot of companies now, they'll put the game out and it doesn't really work that well because they just say, well, we'll just patch it and fix it later. So I think you don't want to have that scenario where a publisher says, oh, just put it out and if something's broken.
Yeah, well, yeah, no, usually the mechanic thing's rare. That one's usually the rarest of the bunch.
Like if that happens, it's not good.
Because because remember, they don't just make the game and then send it out. They play test it.
Right.
So this is one of those things that just happens.
So hopefully they really play test it.
Yes, because there's always that chance. Just no one thought of using this one weird combo. This is really true with Magic because they have all these cards. Yeah.
Way hard to test.
At the time you don't think about it, but then when everyone starts abusing it, and that's when you're like, oh crap.
Yeah. How about games? Any games that are out now that you think could use an update, artwork-wise or even mechanics-wise?
I have to think through. I don't know about mechanics. Oh, this one I wouldn't say is like I want a 2.0, not because of the mechanics, not because of the artwork, but the cards. Android Netrunner, the base game. As of now, if you don't know Android Netrunner, it's a living card game. And when you build your game, you can have up to 3 copies of a card in a deck. Usually, it's certain rules otherwise. The base game comes with 3 copies of some cards, 2 of some, and 1 of others. So if you want a full playset of the cards from the base game, not including the expansions all make sure you have a playset. You need to buy 3 copies of the base game. And for those 1 cards, that's 11 cards to get 3 copies. That seems like a lot. I'd really wish they could maybe make a new version that just has 3 of everything.
So maybe even like a special edition kind of just to include.
Well, apparently that would be too expensive, so I feel like it may be easier to just put 3 copies of everything in.
I bet some people, because games like that is another thing actually, a good point you bring up is even just like incorporating, sometimes an expansion becomes such an integral part of the game that they will incorporate that, like we said with Carcassonne. But it's along the same lines. Yeah, I think people would buy that because look at Dominion and even the Doomtown special edition that came out that had extra cards. I think people are willing to dive in and they would buy a big set.
Yeah, well, no, I understand buying 2. Like if it was 2.
Well, I mean, I'm saying if it was as one.
Oh yeah.
Not
yeah,
buying.
sorry.
No, buying 3 separate. That's crazy.
Yeah. Like 2 is up for Doomtown was like okay, I get it because that's just one more and you get it and decks. But like 3 and also that third one's for 11 cards.
Yeah. Right. That's crazy.
Yeah.
You're crazy.
What about you? Do you have any games you can think off the top?
Did I just say one, or was that I just make something up? No. One I was thinking of, which actually I'm pretty sure is a new edition, but I think could use another new edition, is Betrayal at House on the Hill. Not the least of reasons, which is that it seems to be out of print all the time because it's very popular and they don't put it in demand enough. But also a lot of those, a lot of the scenarios in general can be a little unbalanced, and that's sort of the nature of the game. It's more of a thematic game, but it would be cool to see more done to balance it out. It's also, especially with just adding more scenarios to it. I know one that they already did that I was happy about was BattleCon, because that was an artwork one where the artwork was, I felt, very inconsistent. I think you remember, like,
And some of it was a little compared to
no offense to the artist, but some of it was not great in my opinion. And so they liked that they put out the new version with all, they made it all consistent, and artists and the styles didn't clash anymore. So that's a good one for me.
I know one actually for Mechanic. I'm gonna butcher the name. Like Kasume, I believe it is. Goddess is by the same people who do Crossmaster Arena. It's a deck building game. Comes in a small can, but unlike most deck building games, you know how when we start any of them, usually there's plenty of ways to get rid of your weaker cards. Usually your starter cards, as they're usually called. This one, not so much. There's one card that does it. One type of card. There's, I think, 2 or 3 copies of it. So like if you don't grab that one card, I feel like you're just in so much trouble. Because it's also it also helps you with drawing. So that one card's so powerful compared to the others because it's the only one that lets you really whittle down the weak cards you want to get rid of. Like there's cards that get rid of cards, but they get rid of all the buying cards. So it'd be like in Legendary, you can only discard the heroes you buy, not your starter agents. So I think that could use a bit of a mechanic. Plus it has no expansion, so it'd be the perfect time for it to see something.
That sounds like a fair one. Of course, you could always do what Fantasy Flight did with Arkham Horror and just make a whole new game. Arkham, want to do a new version of Arkham? Nah, just make a whole new game. Forget it.
Monopoly could use one.
Well, they have. Hey, Monopoly does now come with rules for fast play and the die and everything. There's those little updates they do. But I guess any more specifics you have in mind? I think we covered it.
No, not yet. I mean, it's one of those things you gotta just keep testing artwork. It all depends on the game. Like sometimes it's little things. Like even though Munchkin, the artwork is great. Like it makes sense for the work. It's enjoyable. The adding the color makes it more consistent with all its expansions when mixing them. If you want to be crazy like that and try to mix multiple expansions,
we advise against it. Sometimes.
No, we don't. We want them to get them all from us.
Yeah, buy all of them. They're great. Mix them every day. Yeah, so I think it's definitely I don't think it's a problem. I think it potentially could be, but as of now, I don't really see any publishers abusing the system or anything.
No, like you said, it's not the DLC problem we see in video games.
Yeah, I think, and if it was,
there's no EA.
People wouldn't buy them, right? Well, but so it's usually exciting, and usually you don't need to buy them. So
right. I mean, if you already have the base, good for you. Yeah. If you don't, good time to pick it up.
But you guys out there should let us know what you think. Do you have a favorite game that was reprinted that you really like, or maybe you really don't like?
Yeah, maybe one that you thought that they shouldn't have done.
The original was better. Yeah, that's a tough one too.
Yeah, we didn't even think about that.
I know, it's crazy. Or a game that you would really like to see get a new version. You can always comment on this YouTube video, or you could send us an email. Our email address is rollforcrit@gmail.com.
And let's not forget, if you want to send a shorter message, there's our Twitter, @rollforcrit. And of course, our personal Twitters, @Dorikiryu,
@Quentz, and @IvanRHan, @Foamy89 as well, our graphic designer. And what else?
And of course, they can reach us through Instagram and Vine, and Facebook. Once again,
do.
all of them, Roll for Crit.
Yes, indeed. That would be awesome if you did. And don't forget, If you want to check out some of the games we discussed today or read any of the news stories we talked about,
Like, I don't know, buy all those munchkins so you can mix them up.
buy all those munchkins and mix them up. Please do so at our website, which is rollforcrit.com. You can so many good deals on games, so good.
Plus, all our news is there, so that's a good place to
news.
check all the news on the board games that we maybe skipped over something, or just reviews and other plenty of things for there.
That's right. Tabletop Day 2015 was announced.
That's true.
See, that's a tidbit that you would miss if you didn't check rollforcrit.com.
So there's so much to do there, as well as all of our other sites.
So that is a thank you so much for watching, everybody. It's been great. My name is Jonathan Estes.
I'm Will Keeler, and this has been the Roll for Crit podcast.